Well, the notice of commencement is something that's required for anything that's over $2,500 in the
Mhm.
state of Florida.
And the reason why I asked that too is for if anyone is kind of looking to partner with different types of solar, because we have like on the call people from all over the place.
Tell you that anybody that is I don't know where all you guys are from, but if any of you guys find someone that's interested in solar and you want to bring that person to me, not only will you get the notary job on it, but I'll also give you 500 bucks on top. My name is Brian Reznor. I'm the Director of Operations for Advanced Solar and Energy here in Fort Myers. We are a 41-year-old company that pretty much introduced solar to Southwest Florida, and we do solar electric, we do solar thermal, and we are an all-encompassing solar company, meaning we do the sale, we do the installation, and we do the service after the fact. No subcontractors involved, the way that it's supposed to be done.
I had just seen your article of something where like this is fairly common that other companies will come in and kind of do things not necessarily the right way. Is that
Mhm.
correct? Yeah.
Yes, actually, well, I'll tell you, in 2021, we had to start a division of our company based on rescuing other people from other companies.
Yeah.
It came sort of like that: with great power comes great responsibility. And we have that great power, and we've seen so many people that were in a situation where they just were screwed. Basically,
Mhm.
they had no way out. They had no way to fix the situation. They had invested 30 some thousand plus dollars in a system that, and a variety of reasons, are not working for them.
Mhm.
Some of it were faulty install. Some of it was a situation where it never actually got installed. Paid the money, but they never got the finish.
Mhm.
Some of them, they're completely finished, but then they never pulled a permit, so they couldn't actually get the thing turned on. It was so many different things that we run into. Since then, we are creeping up slowly on our 500th rescue customer. Right
Wow.
now, we're at 486 people have been rescued from our
Mhm.
advanced solar rescue division in the
Mhm.
since 2021, and we started
Yeah.
that division at about the halfway point of 2021. So we're not talking about much time at all, and we've already saved that many people, and we have so many in the bucket that are to be saved in the future. And when you talk to these people, a lot of them will be elderly people that thought they were making the right decision. They trusted a door knocker, someone that knocked on their door,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden now they're in this mess. And that's the big issue. A lot of people that don't realize that the door knockers are always a bad choice. There's
Mhm.
never a situation where somebody's like, "Oh, I had a door knocker and everything's great." It just doesn't happen that way. Door knockers are not licensed contractors. They're not basically sales guys. And as soon as they sell the job, then they are then selling the work over to the cheapest bidder. And
Mhm.
that's never a good situation for the homeowner.
Yeah. I was wondering about like the typical volume or
Solar projects in a year for
yeah.
just a,
Yeah.
I'd say for us it's a lot different than a lot of companies. I mean, we
Mhm.
usually do probably 3 to 4 PV jobs a week, and
Mhm.
PV is photovoltaic, solar electric. And so a lot of companies are not seeing that type of volume.
Mhm.
I would say that there are companies out there that are doing maybe 30 jobs a year. We do a lot more than that, but
Yeah.
we're a lot bigger company than the rest. We are the oldest and largest local solar company around here. Most of the
Mhm.
companies are dealing with one install team, salespeople. We employ over 50 people, got 35 trucks on the road, so we're going a little bit higher volume than other folks. I
Mhm.
really don't think that there's another company that's doing that level of volume, but I
Mhm.
would say that our competitors are probably doing about 20 to 30 a year.
What type of documents do you typically see for those types of permits and everything like that?
Well, the notice to commencement is the main thing. I don't necessarily think that we use a notary for anything else on the project, but that notice of commencement always has to be notarized.
And so for that, does that have to be done by the homeowner and the like the head of construction, or is that typically just the homeowner?
We do it in house, just the head of construction.
If you could give us a little bit of a summary.
Well, the notice of commencement is something that's required for anything that's over $2,500 in the
Mm-hmm,
state of Florida. Now,
mm-hmm,
I don't think that everyone necessarily follows by that guideline. I know that there's probably a lot of them that happen without notice of commencements,
yep.
but we can't do that without what we do. We have to let everyone know what's happening, and that's basically what that document does. Is
Mm-hmm.
it just lets everyone know that this is going down and this is what's happening. Here's the scope of work. This is how much it's valued at. And then there's your notice of what we're about to do.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because that's good that you do that, because I just did a notarization for someone that out on Sanibel was doing a bunch of work that was not authorized. Well, someone came by from code and slapped him with a bunch of fines. And the house next door got the same exact thing that happened to them, but they got deemed um unlivable, whatever that is. And so this guy did all of this work for his house, and then he can't live in it because it was deemed unlivable, which is insane. And he's like, obviously he's mad. But yeah, definitely for like people that are, I guess, a little bit on the fence about doing the notice of commencements, like, because that's some of the things that we get pushback on as notaries, that, we don't need to do the notice of commencements. And it's like, well, it only takes one mad homeowner, one person that's, going
One
through, and
inspector, and
one
there's a lot
inspector.
of different,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, when you said that you did rescues for that, do you see the rescues of the people that didn't pull the permits? Can we go into that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
see all of those. I mean, I'm actually hands-on with every single rescue because it's important that one, we hear their story and so we can
Mm-hmm.
educate others. And then two, just to make sure that they don't have any situations going forward.
Yeah.
If we're going to say, hey, we're Superman, then we've got to have the laser eyes and all that stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what we try to make sure that we have everything in tune for them and their rescue. So yeah, I see all of that stuff. Any questions you have about that, I can answer.
Yeah. So, do you see a lot of things where like the person has their solar and then it's all set, but the person hadn't pulled the permit? Then what happens afterwards? Like, can they retroactively go back and pull the permit, or how does that work?
Well, what happens there is we end up pulling the permit for them, and then they
Yeah.
have to do the engineering, and which 9 times out of 10, they've already paid for the engineering, but then they have to do it again because it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And then we have to do the permit, and then we have to do the inspection, and then we have to do the activation. So the very first part of that is us going out and doing an assessment, because we don't want to pull a permit on something that's not going to pass.
Yeah.
So we go in and make all the corrections first, and so then
Mm-hmm.
when we're confident that we've got a working solar system that's going to pass a permit, that's when we start with applying for the engineering and then turning the engineering over to permitting, and basically treat it like a new install.
But but yeah. And then is there any type of like reporting process for if there is a company that has done things like not necessarily by code, and then they kind of um like, do they get in trouble ever?
There is a process, but here's the problem. The problem with a process
Mm-hmm.
is that, so once you've got a rescue customer and they call
Mm-hmm.
you and they tell you, hey, my solar system, like, I'll give you a good example. I had this guy named Kurt. This guy named Kurt's had a system on his roof for 2 years. It's never produced a single bit of electricity, and he didn't know why. He didn't understand it. No one had told him that once the permit passes, then you have to file with FP&L to swap out your meter. Nobody told him that part. He thought he just had solar on his roof and it was going to create power, and he couldn't figure out why it didn't. So he's
Yeah.
calling his company to figure out why. Well, that company's out of business. And that's why the problem comes to, yes, there is a process, but it goes nowhere because these companies are going out of business. Nobody is going, like that particular customer had the
Mm-hmm.
entire system installed on his roof, and the company went out of business before he could even pay them the rest of their money. So he got all of the solar equipment for free. Now, that is a very rare situation. Most of the
Yeah.
time, you're talking to these people and they've lost thousands upon thousands of dollars and still are not producing. Now, this guy, he was lucky. He won the lottery of being an advance or being a rescue victim.
Yeah.
So, and he got some equipment out of it, but they never pulled that permit. They never passed a permit. They never got the meter swap. They never got the activation or anything like that, because they went out of business in the process. So most of the time when we run into a non-permitted job, or we run into something that's just never been activated, it's because the company is no longer available. And a lot of these companies will run a company, they'll make these sales, and when they get in trouble, when they get to the point where they're tripped up, that's when they shut their company down and open another one and do it again. So it happens a lot. You see it happening a lot more than it really should. And
Yeah.
if you'll notice, there are a lot of people talking about this. Recently, a couple of contractors went to jail in Tampa for doing this same thing, for illegal contracting. They were contracting solar systems without a license and hiring the subcontractors to come in and do the work. There, these guys, these guys were really smart because they were getting all their money up front. So they're getting the payments up front. I've heard that story so many times too. It's like, yeah, they said that we couldn't get this done unless we paid for everything up front. That's a red flag. That flag is bright red,
Yeah.
because no company is going to do that to you. For us, our process is 20% down. Then we go 30% when we arrive with the equipment, 40% when we finish the install, and 10% when you pass the inspection. That's
Oh.
the best way to go about it, because it's progress payments. And as you see progress, you pay for that progress. If you're asked to pay everything up front before everything is done,
Hey, stranger.
run.
Yeah.
Hey, Miss Fortune. I got you checked in. You're welcome.
That's crazy. Here, sorry, I just I just muted someone. But that's, yeah. How often do you see, oh, this was my thing, is that on the website, for the article, you had to be registered to a certain organization or association to be
That
like legitimate. Do you know what that is? Or
Yes, that is FLACIA. FLACIA is the Florida Energy solar group. You know that everyone that has, I mean, well, basically, it's not that you have to be a part of FLACIA to do these things, but you have but you have to be licensed and vetted to be in FLACIA. So
Okay.
by going to FLACIA, you are finding legitimate solar companies. Now, I will say, and I'm not trying to disparage anyone whatsoever. There are members of FLACIA that we have rescued homeowners from.
Yeah.
So it doesn't always work that that's the end all be all. There are companies that are registered with FLACIA that are not the greatest companies. So
Yeah.
it's, you really, what it really comes down to is you can't expect someone else to do that research for you. You have to research these companies yourself, and you have to ask them the right questions. And one thing I will say is we have something called the red flag report that we offer out to homeowners that are thinking about solar. And it really gives you 10 solid questions for you to ask anyone that's trying to sell you solar, and you can identify red flags. So it's a great way to really get some knowledge on solar. And it's also really good at door knocker repellent. If a door knocker comes to your house and you pull out the red flag report and start asking questions, they just explode. It just doesn't work. Their head explodes, the smoke comes out their ears, the whole thing. No, they just can't answer the questions because they're not set for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And the reason why I asked that too is for if anyone is kind of looking to partner with different types of solar, because we have like on the call people from all over the place. But that would be a good spot to start with for the FLACIA, just so that you can kind of start marketing towards these different companies and everything, so that way, you can start partnering with the solar industry.
Sure. A great
Yeah.
thing to do is ask, how long they've been in business. You find out how long they've been in business. Warranties for solar panels are 25 years. So if the company hasn't been in business 25 years, it's hard to trust that they're going to be there for 25 years to follow up on that. And solar is a marriage. You're
Yeah.
basically marrying that company for 25 years. 25 years is longer than most marriages last. So you want to make sure that you've got the right company that you're going to be in a relationship with for that long, that's going to
Yeah.
still be there. Another good question to ask is, do you have a service department? Do you have install crews? If they answer no to either one of those, that's not the guy. It's not the guy for you. The last thing you want is a middleman who's basically just skimming and not actually providing service.
Yeah. And then I also wanted to kind of open it up for when people had, like, if anyone had any questions, we can go ahead and, I mean, if you don't mind, we can open it up, and then anyone has,
Sure.
yeah. So let me just see if I can unmute everybody. I'm gonna cross my fingers and see if it'll let me do that. So yes.
Yes, sir.
Hey Brian, got a quick one for you. What's the time frame of a turnover from a rescue from start to finish, like your average time frame?
So it's really hard to say that because it just depends on what's wrong. Like, for instance, I had a rescue customer recently that had the permitting issue. We go out there, we find out every single thing is done exactly correct except for one L bar needs to be moved. We move that L bar. Now we set up for inspection, and we're waiting on the inspection. As soon as the inspection happens, the inspection will take longer than the fix did. So we were done with his system in 30 minutes, and now all the work is on the back end getting that done. Then we had another one where the entire system had to be replaced because it was all faulty equipment. That took right at 2 months because we had to apply for engineering, we had to apply for permitting, and we had to do all of those things. So, a regular solar install, if you come and purchase a solar system, you are looking at about 3 months, and that's give or take a couple weeks, but 3 months usually gets you everything you need. Now, with a rescue customer, so it could be 3 months, it could be 20 minutes. It just depends on the severity of the situation.
So
did that answer your question?
Absolutely, thank you.
All right.
thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions or anything that they wanted to go over? I know we were talking a little bit about the notice of commencement beforehand. And then I kind of wanted to talk about marketing towards the solar company. But like, for anyone that is looking to partner with the solar companies, one of the easiest ways that I kind of find is that if you ask a solar company or anything, how they take care of out of state notarizations. Because if they have the clients do it via like the banking system or anything like that, usually I ask like, okay, well, how did that go? And then sometimes you get where the head of operations or whatever will say like, well, not that well. And then that's when you kind of would want to come in and say, I know how to take care of notice of commencements. I can do everything remotely and get it back to you within 5 minutes. So that's usually how I kind of do everything, as far as the pushback for the notarizations. But the other thing that you want to make sure, since we cover such a wide variety of different types of recording offices, is that the recording office will take remote online notarizations, because they don't always. Because I know Lee and Collier do, and they're fine with that. But if you have someone that calls you and they're like, well, do you know if such and such county will take the recording? You can either put it back on the person, or you can go ahead and say, well, let me call the office and see. If you're brand new and you're looking into getting more clients, I definitely 100% would take like, I would be calling the recording office and be like, hey, this is what I do. I'm going to go the extra step, and then, call back Brian and be like, yes, you know, Hendry County does take remote online notarizations. Let's partner together so that way we can take care of this. So
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, but thank you for coming on. We actually met through BNI.
I
Um,
know. I
yeah,
know.
yeah,
I
yeah.
realized that after I agreed. I was like, oh, I do know her.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, but for anyone that's like on the fence about either visiting or joining BNI, because are you still part of the
Yes.
fireside? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Fireside.
Okay.
Yes, I'm the visitor host, so I can get you set
Oh,
up
nice.
if you want to
Yeah.
come join.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know that anyone here is like kind of local to us, but I do think that it would be fun. I might come and visit again. So yeah, but BNI is where we met. And if anyone's ever on the fence about doing that, um, I think it's worth it to visit and see, and then you kind of get your elevator pitch down because they make you stand around in a circle and kind of talk about, you know, your business and everything like that.
You know, one thing I would add to that is, you know, it would be worth it for you guys to actually join the BNI groups in your
Yeah.
area. And the
Hmm.
reason why is it's not necessarily what's in that room. Is when you join BNI, you're a BNI member, and therefore you can travel to all of the groups and you can come and visit all of the groups. And when you do that, you'll notice not a lot of notaries are in there. You don't find notaries in any of those groups. So you can pretty much secure your entire web network. You know,
Hmm.
every BNI group that needs a notary, if you are visiting their group, you know, say once a month, you should pop in and say, you know, say your piece. They're going to keep that in their mind of, hey, we don't have a notary, but this other chapter does. And you'll end up getting all the business from all the chapters because there's just no one else doing it.
Hmm. Yeah. And that's what has happened. Like that's almost where I got a good, you know, Carmen from the personal injury and everything like that. He has, you know, his
Carmen
extensive
Delutri.
amount. Yeah. Yeah, and you know, all of those other places and then like insurance adjusters, but also like BNI explain like that you get to meet the decision makers right there in front of you instead of having to go through the admins and like kind of dealing with their pushback and
That's a
yeah,
perfect point, an absolute perfect point. And I tell that to anybody that is doing business to business sales. You know, there are gatekeepers that are going to keep you out, and
yeah.
you are never going to get through that wall. But when you go to BNI, you're setting right there with the target.
Hmm.
And that's it's the beauty of business to business sales when you're dealing with you know, where you're dealing with something like BNI.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Oh,
But I guess we can, I mean, I have a little bit of time. I don't know if you do, but do you guys have any questions about BNI?
Yeah,
no.
I mean, I've been wanting to join, but it's so expensive and I don't know if it's worth it because I've been to a few what do you call those business commerce
Chamber of Commerce.
yeah, Chamber of Commerce. And I literally got no business from
Well,
them.
you know what? I've been a member of the Chamber of Commerce for about the entire time that I've been in Florida. We've been members of the Chamber of Commerce. Chamber of Commerce is not going to bring you business. It's going to bring
Yeah,
you
yeah.
visibility. So you
Okay.
get visibility from Chamber of Commerce. BNI is a completely different animal. So
Mhm.
when you know when you're in BNI, you are actually in there to get referrals, and everybody in there is there to pass referrals. With Chamber of Commerce,
Okay.
that's kind of like a side note. You know, yeah, if you get a referral, that's awesome. I never have. But whenever I want to put my business on the map, I can get them to come out here with a big pair of scissors and cut the ribbon. I can get them to
Yeah.
come out here with a bunch of people and beer and have a party. I can do all of that, and I have the power to leverage that for myself. But
Mhm.
BNI is that and so much more because yes, I can leverage myself in the same way. Like for instance, we're doing an event at our location on September 27th that we're calling the Solar Circus. Now, the Solar Circus is going to be a big party with jump houses and all kinds of different stuff for the kids and clowns and makeup and all this stuff. And I would not have a ready-made crowd if it wasn't for the fact that I'm in 5 BNI groups. So there's
Wow.
five of our people here are in BNI groups. So we've created what you call a BNI web. And that means that anybody, even in the BNI groups that we're not in, if they don't have a solar guy, they're going to see Advanced Solar because Advanced Solar is in every single BNI around them. So it's a web type of system. So when I set up a spotlight with my BNI, then my entire chapter comes to this spotlight event. And when I've got 5 chapters doing a spotlight on one day, we got a ready-made crowd. Add in the Chamber of Commerce with a ribbon cutting, and now we've got a lot of people. I've got 300 people on my lot before the first customer shows up.
Nice.
So it's a really great way to leverage yourself. So I would not talk down on Chamber of Commerce. It's just a different animal. If you understand the Chamber of Commerce, you can leverage it for yourself. But BNI, there are so many different ways to leverage, and it's just, there's just so many benefits to it beyond just getting referrals.
Well,
check it out.
The other thing that you could do, Monique, is if you wanted to do the remote, because there's different remote BNIs that you could also join.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
Yeah,
perfect.
so yeah. So
well, I will tell
honestly,
you though, the BNI remote really sucks.
Oh,
I'm sorry. It just does it, like the Zoom meetings are the worst meetings. They're the
Okay.
worst
I know, but,
meetings to
like,
go to.
yeah,
They're better. I mean, it's better than nothing.
yeah,
But there's nothing like pressing the flesh, being
Yeah.
there, shaking the hands, making the relationships. It's just, you know, as real as this is, it's not real in the business world. You know, when we're out there, we want to be shaking hands, we want to be passing cards, we want to be talking to people. And
Yeah.
BNI just opens that wide open for you. And anything that you're lacking in development as far as yourself, I mean, because you guys are notaries, but at the end of the day, you're salespeople. You're selling yourself.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that are, you know, if you're in the notary business, you know, you're thinking, oh man, I got to learn a new skill. I've got to learn how to sell myself. And you really kind of do. You have to learn that skill. And there's no better place to develop that type of mentality than in BNI, where you're going to have to do a presentation and you're going to have to sell yourself every single week. That type of stuff is really great for your development.
Can I chime in on this
I
one
will
real
check
quick?
it out.
I agree with Brian on that one. I went to one of the BNI meetings and there was about 30 to 40 people in there, plus the leaders and they talked about almost everything. Each person talked about their business and who they referred, that have that. And while they're talking, I'm just looking at money symbols coming out of their top of their heads, because every one of them needs a notary for something, between the realtor, the lawyers, everybody. So it was a matter of just a good handshake and a 5-minute conversation. You could go anywhere with it.
Well, I'll tell you, you know, those are the type of groups that you're wanting to join. I know my very first BNI experience was sour. I got invited to a BNI chapter. I go in and there's like 8 guys sitting around talking about football. And I'm like, nobody in this room is going to buy anything. I need to get out of here. So I left with a sour taste in my mouth, like, oh, BNI doesn't work. Then I had this contractor that I was trying to sign a $100,000 contract with. And he was like, hey, man, would you like to go to my BNI meeting? And I was like, no, man, here we go. But I have to go because I need him to sign this $100,000 contract. So I'm, yeah, sure, I'll go to your BNI meeting. I walked into Fireside and there were 72 people in that room.
Yeah.
And I seen money changing hands. I seen people talking. I seen checks. I was like, this is what they said it was. The other one wasn't. So you got to make sure that you visit all the chapters. Visit all the ones in your area so you know which one is the dynamic one that you need to join. But when you find the dynamic one, the money is in there. I know when I joined, I was thinking, well, if I can pull $20,000 out of this room, I'll make it worth it. And I was able to pull 118 the first year and like 75 the second year. And then this year I've already reached 75 and I'm headed up even higher. So the return on investment was a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, Jahira did say something good, where you do have to kind of make the weekly meetings or have someone else go for you to sub for the weekly meetings. But at the same time, like if you can make it where you know, usually I think Fireside is Wednesdays at 7:15, but they do have ones that are on different days in different chapters.
Sure,
So
they're all at different times.
Yeah.
And really, you know, yes, I would look at it more like you can have a sub if something
Mhm.
happens,
Mhm.
but don't lean on that. It won't
Yeah.
make you a powerful member. And that's what you really want to do, is become a powerful member. And the way you become a powerful member is you're there every week. You show
Mhm.
up at the spotlights, you help people out, you make sure that you have those one-to-ones. You have to work it. If you don't work it, it's a waste of your money and you shouldn't do it. If
Yeah.
you're going to dedicate yourself to it and you're going to work it and you're going to make sure that you're creating relationships, some people can do it, some people can't. And if
Mhm.
you're one of the people that can actually have those conversations and you have the personality for it, and you can go out there, or you have the potential to do that and you just need to throw yourself in the pool, either one will work for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And like it kind of pulls it out of you too for doing the BNI meetings, because sometimes I'll be, there and just very, very quiet, and then someone like, will nicely be like, speak up. And I'll be like, okay, I'm here, I'm a notary, and I'm great, and this is what I do. And so it does help you with your development and like being more out into the world, because now I am not scared about going into big crowds and talking about what I do, because like, I've done it enough that it doesn't really faze me.
Another thing that it really helps with is if you're in a group, you've got a ton of people there, you eventually become the go-to person for everyone for everything. They
Mm-hmm.
call you when they need a plumber. They call you when they need an electrician. They call you when they need solar. Hey, do you know anybody? And that puts you at top of mind awareness. And when you're at
Mm-hmm.
top of mind awareness, of course, when the notary situation comes on, they're going to have your number on speed dial, because I know speed dial is kind of an aged term, but you get my point. They're going to know you right away because you're their go-to for everything, because you're connected. And when you
Mm-hmm.
have the image of connected, everyone wants to be connected with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, so I think we might wrap it up, just because I have, oh, yes, Michelle, you had a question?
Yes, this has to do with when we receive a notice of commencement. I've done a few, but
Mm-hmm.
just to make sure, you just want to make sure that it's correct. Everything has to be filled out before we can even notarize, meaning like the legal description, name of the person, something about insurance.
Yeah, and just on that note, when I am working with different contractors or anything like that, I'm pretty clear with the communication that everything that gets sent to me needs to already be filled out, because I am not going to be the one that's providing the legal description of the document. Like, that's just not something that I'm going to do, because I don't want to do the wrong thing. And then also it's a little bit out of scope of, what we can kind of like, we can't fill out the doc, like that needs to be provided to us. So yeah, either by the homeowner, which is not always ideal, or the contractor, or, where the solar company should hopefully provide that, where everything's filled out except for the homeowner part, or the general contractor part, or my part.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but you will get pushback sometimes by some of these different contractors and everything. So you just kind of, like, the way that I say it, it's like, I don't want to mess up this notice of commencement, so it's easier for everybody involved, because they know all of the information, that they are the ones that are providing that, so that way we don't guess. And that's just not good. No. Okay. Well, Brian, thank you so much. Are you on social media a ton, or like how
Sure.
best? Okay, how best
Oh,
for everybody to find you?
you could find me on Facebook. You could find me on LinkedIn. I'm not sure, but you can find me just about anywhere.
Okay.
And the best way to find me is just give me a call.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much for hanging out with us and speaking
Sure.
with us, and, giving your time. I really appreciate it. And
Well, one thing I can say that that you may be able to use me for in the future is I
Mhm,
know you
yeah.
guys are doing some sales stuff when you're trying to sell yourself, and I'm sure that a lot of that is cold calling businesses and trying to get yourself in there. I
Yeah.
do a lot of sales training for individuals,
Oh,
and I
great.
would not mind to do another one of these where I give you guys my cold call class, and my cold call class is very excellent. So if you guys would like to do that, I would
Okay.
be open to doing that in the future.
Okay, thank you. I was just talking to someone else about how how hard cold calling is. So that would be
I can make it
excellent.
very easy. I can make it very easy and very successful. So if you guys want to set that up, I will gladly do
Okay.
that for you in the future as well.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
another thing I can tell you, is as far as notaries, of course, we
Mhm,
have notaries in the building, but I will
mhm.
tell you that anybody that is, I don't know where all you guys are from, but if any of you guys find someone that's interested in solar and you want to bring that person to me, not only will you get the notary job on it, but I'll also give you 500 bucks on top.
Okay. And so do they have to be in the state of Florida or like what
They have
area
to
specific?
be, yeah, they have to be in the state of Florida
Okay. Okay.
and
Cool.
preferably not in the Jacksonville direction,
Okay.
closer to where I'm at in Fort Myers, but I do cover
Yeah.
a lot of ground.
Hmm.
And yeah, so if you find somebody and you think that you can get them to talk to me about going solar, if they go solar, I'll get you the notary job on that one, and I'll also give you the 500 bucks on top.
Okay. Yeah. That's amazing because also we talked to a bunch of
Yes, I do
roofers.
cover Homestead. Ruth Regis, I cover Homestead. So if you got somebody in Homestead, let me know.
Um, yeah, because we talked to a ton of different roofers too. So then it's like very much hand in hand. Because I think you would kind of target roofers as well, right?
We have 137 roofers on our roster, and we love to add more. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you got
Okay.
roofers and you want to send them to me, send them
Okay.
to me. Okay, sounds good. Thank
Okay.
you so much, and I'll see you
Thank
guys
you
later.
guys. Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.